They buried my wife on a Tuesday. Rain hammered the casket so hard I thought it might crack open. 53 people stood around the grave, black umbrellas bleeding into each other like ink stains. I didn't cry. Couldn't. The shock had hollowed me out, left me empty. Then my phone vibrated. I am alive. That is not me in the casket. The world stopped. The rain, the prayers, the organ music from the chapel, all of it dissolved into white noise. My fingers went numb. The phone nearly slipped into the mud. I typed back with shaking hands. "Who is this?" The reply came in seconds. "It is me, Emma. They're watching. Don't trust Richard. Richard Hale, 6 feet away. My best friend for 12 years. His hand was on my shoulder, squeezing gently, his face twisted in what looked like genuine grief. But now those words burned on my screen, and suddenly his sympathy felt like a performance. He noticed me staring. "Ethan, you okay?" I shoved the phone deep into my pocket. "Yeah, I need a minute." "Take your time, brother." He squeezed my shoulder again. "I am here for you." But as I watched him turn away, something ice-cold slithered down my spine. If Emma wasn't dead, if she was out there somewhere sending me messages, then everything I thought I knew about the past 3 days was a lie. And if she wasn't in that casket, who was? I met Emma 7 years ago at a tech conference in Austin. She was giving a presentation on blockchain security, tearing apart the industry's sacred cows with surgical precision. Brilliant, fearless, absolutely magnetic. I approached her after, stammering through an invitation to dinner like a nervous teenager. "You are Ethan Cross," she said, those green eyes sizing me up. "CrossTech, the company that turned down the Morrison deal last year because you thought their data practices were unethical. You heard about that." "I did my research," she smiled. "I like men with principles. Dinner sounds perfect." We got married 14 months later in a small ceremony on the shores of Lake Michigan. No fancy venue, no corporate networking disguised as celebration, just US 40 friends, and a promise to build something real together. CrossTech exploded after that. Emma joined the company as Chief Information Officer, and her innovations in cybersecurity made us untouchable. We protected banks, hospitals, military contractors. We were the gold standard, 3,000 employees, clients in 17 countries. We had everything. Then 6 months ago, Vincent Moretti walked into my office and tried to take it all away. The day Moretti showed up, I was reviewing quarterly reports. Numbers were solid. Silverstone Bank had just signed a $12 million contract. The board was happy. Everything looked perfect. My assistant buzzed at 2 p.m. "Mr. Cross, your appointment is here." Vincent Moretti. I didn't recognize the name. His people had called 3 times requesting a meeting about investments. I should have researched him. Should have asked questions. But I was riding high, drunk on success. The man who walked through my door looked like he belonged in a different era. Silver hair slicked back, suit that probably cost 10 grand, and eyes like a shark's, cold and calculating. 2 men flanked him, hands clasped in front of them, faces carved from stone. "Mr. Cross." His handshake was too firm, too long. "I've been watching your company. Very impressive." "Thank you. Please sit." I gestured to the conference table. "What brings you to CrossTech?" Moretti sat slowly, like a king settling onto a throne. "I represent certain investors who need partnerships with legitimate businesses. Clean companies with spotless reputations." He leaned forward. "Companies exactly like yours." The hair on my neck stood up. "What kind of partnership?" "We have capital that requires proper processing. Your company would handle financial transactions, provide consulting services to our associates." His smile was thin. "All above board, of course, just business arrangements that benefit everyone." I've heard corporate double talk my entire career. I know when someone's dancing around the truth. This wasn't a business proposal. This was a trap. You are asking me to launder money through Crosstech, I said flatly. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. One of his men shifted, and I caught a flash of metal under his jacket. A gun. Moretti's smile evaporated. Such crude language, Mr. Cross. We're discussing partnerships, arrangements that could make you extraordinarily wealthy. I am wealthy enough, I said, standing up, and I earned it legitimately. Crosstech's reputation is worth more than whatever you are offering. This meeting is over. Silence. Moretti didn't move, just stared at me with those dead shark eyes. Then he stood, buttoned his jacket with slow precision, and walked toward the door. He paused at the threshold. You are making a mistake, Mr. Cross. People who refuse me tend to regret it deeply. I don't forget. Then you'll remember this as the day someone said no. My voice was steady, but my heart was hammering. My assistant will show you out. After they left, I stood at the window, watching Lake Michigan glitter in the afternoon sun, and felt like I just stepped off a cliff. I turned down the mob. The actual mafia had just walked through my door with a business proposal, and I'd shown them the exit. At the time, I thought I'd done the right thing, the ethical thing. I had no idea I'd just signed Emma's death warrant. That night, I told Emma everything. We sat in our living room, the Chicago skyline glowing through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and I laid it all out. Moretti, the offer, the veiled threats. She went pale. Ethan, do you know who Vincent Moretti is? Some investor with questionable ethics. He is not an investor. He is a crime boss. The Moretti family controls half the illegal operations in the Midwest. Money laundering, racketeering, worse. She grabbed my hand. If he came to you directly, it means he is desperate. And desperate men are dangerous. I couldn't say yes, Em. Everything we built, our entire reputation, I know. She kissed my forehead. You did the right thing, but we need to be careful now. Very careful. We hired private security the next day. Upgraded our home alarm system. I varied my routes to work. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. I started to relax, thinking maybe Moretti had moved on to easier targets. Then Richard came to me with a proposal. Ethan, I've been thinking, he said, sitting across from my desk. We just finished a board meeting. We should expand our operations. Open a consulting division that handles financial services for high-net-worth clients. Financial services, that is not our expertise. It is diversification. The margins are incredible, and I've already got potential clients lined up. He pulled out a folder. Look at these numbers. I flipped through the documents. The profit projections were absurd, too good to be true. Who are these clients? Various consortiums, international investors, all vetted, all legitimate. Something in his tone made me pause. Richard, did Vincent Moretti approach you? His face didn't change, but I saw it. That microsecond of hesitation, that flicker in his eyes. Who? Don't play dumb. The mob boss who tried to recruit us for money laundering. Did he get to you? Richard laughed, but it sounded forced. Ethan, you are paranoid. These are real opportunities. You are letting one bad meeting cloud your judgment. I am not paranoid. I am careful, and the answer is no. We're not diversifying into financial services for mysterious international clients. He closed the folder slowly. You are making a mistake. Maybe, but it is my company, my call. Richard left without another word. I didn't think much of it at the time. We disagreed before. This felt like just another business argument. But that conversation was the moment everything changed. I just didn't know it yet. 2 weeks later, Emma started acting strange. Jumpy, distracted. I'd catch her staring out windows, checking her phone obsessively. When I asked what was wrong, she'd smile and say she was fine, just stressed about a project. Then one morning, I found her crying in our bathroom. What is going on?" She wiped her eyes quickly. "Nothing, I am okay. You are not okay. Talk to me." She looked at me for a long moment, like she was weighing something heavy. Then she shook her head. "It is work stuff. I'll handle it. If it is about the company, it is not. Drop it, Ethan, please. I should have pushed harder, should have demanded answers. But I respected her privacy, trusted her judgment. That trust nearly got her killed. The accident happened on a Wednesday morning. Emma had left early for a breakfast meeting with a client. I was in the shower when my phone rang, unknown number, Mr. Cross. A woman's voice, professional, cold. "This is Chicago Memorial Hospital. Your wife has been in a serious accident. You need to come immediately." The world tilted. "What happened? Is she—" "Please come now, Mr. Cross." The drive to the hospital was a blur. Red lights, horns, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. When I burst through the emergency room doors, Richard was already there, pacing, crying. "Ethan, oh God, Ethan, what happened?" "Car accident. Her brakes failed on Lakeshore Drive. She hit a barrier doing 70 miles an hour. His voice cracked. "They're saying she might not make it." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. A nurse led me to the ICU, and when I saw Emma, my knees buckled. She was wrapped in bandages, tubes running everywhere, machines beeping and hissing. Her face was swollen beyond recognition. Burns covered her arms. The doctor, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, pulled me aside. "Mr. Cross, your wife's injuries are catastrophic. Third-degree burns, traumatic brain injury, multiple organ failure. We're doing everything we can, but you need to prepare yourself." "She is going to make it," I said stubbornly. "She is strong. She'll fight." The doctor's expression said everything her words didn't. For 3 days, I lived at that hospital. Richard brought me food, clothes, coffee. He handled calls from the board, managed the company, took care of everything so I could focus on Emma. "I've got you, brother," he kept saying. "Whatever you need." On the 3rd day, Emma's heart stopped. They worked on her for 40 minutes. I watched through the window, screaming, praying, begging God for a miracle that never came. Dr. Harris finally came out, pulling off her mask. "I am sorry, Mr. Cross. We did everything we could. She is gone." The world ended. Richard held me while I sobbed, made all the funeral arrangements, handled the paperwork. He was there for everything. The perfect friend in the perfect tragedy. And that is why, standing at Emma's grave with rain soaking through my suit, I couldn't process what I was reading on my phone. "I am alive. Don't trust Richard." If Emma wasn't dead, then Richard had been lying to me for 3 days. But why? What did he have to gain? Then another message came through. "Check the hospital records. Look at the admission forms." That is not my signature. My hands trembled as I pulled up the hospital's patient portal on my phone. I'd been given access as Emma's spouse. I navigated to the admission documents, enlarged the signature page. The handwriting was wrong. Similar, but wrong. The loops too wide, the slant too steep. Someone had forged Emma's signature. A new message. "They faked the accident. I escaped, but they have someone else in that casket. Get away from the funeral. Go home. Check my laptop. Password. Our first kiss 2018. You'll find everything." I looked up. Richard was watching me, his expression unreadable. When our eyes met, he smiled sadly and looked away, but I'd seen it. That flash of calculation. That predatory gleam. I need to go, I announced suddenly. I don't feel well. Richard moved toward me. Ethan, you should stay. Say goodbye properly. I said I need to go. My voice was too sharp, too loud. People were staring. I can't do this right now. I pushed past him, past the mourners, stumbling toward my car. Behind me, I heard Richard calling my name, but I didn't stop, didn't look back. I drove home doing 80 on the expressway, my mind racing faster than the car. Emma was alive. She'd escaped something. Someone had tried to kill her, failed, and staged an elaborate funeral with a body that wasn't hers. And Richard was involved. Our penthouse was on the 62nd floor of a building overlooking Grant Park. I burst through the door, went straight to Emma's home office, and grabbed her laptop from her desk. Password our first is 2018. That night in Austin, under the stars, after the conference dinner, I'd kissed her in the parking lot, and she'd laughed against my lips. The laptop opened. On the desktop, one folder read this first. Inside, dozens of files, audio recordings, bank statements, photographs, and one video file labeled, "Watch Me Now." I clicked it. Emma's face filled the screen. She was in some kind of basement or warehouse. Concrete walls, dim lighting. She looked terrified. Ethan, if you are watching this, it means they tried to kill me and I got away. Or I am already dead, and you are looking for answers. Her voice cracked. I've been investigating Richard for 2 months. After you turned down Moretti, Richard contacted him behind your back. They made a deal. Richard would help Moretti take over Crosstech in exchange for $10 million and a position in Moretti's organization. My blood turned to ice. But they needed you out of the way first. They tried to bribe you, threaten you. When that didn't work, they decided to use me as leverage. Kill me, make it look like an accident, devastate you so completely that you'd sell the company, or make Richard CEO in your grief. Tears streamed down her face. I found proof. Recordings of their conversations, bank transfers, everything. But they discovered I was investigating. I think they're coming for me, Ethan. If this video exists, it means I was right. She leaned closer to the camera. There is a private investigator named Samantha Reyes, former FBI. I hired her 3 weeks ago. She has copies of everything. If I don't check in with her every 48 hours, she is supposed to go to the police. Her number is in the files. Trust her, trust no one else. The video ended. I sat there, numb, staring at the blank screen. My best friend had tried to kill my wife, had staged an elaborate funeral, was planning to steal my company. But Emma had escaped. She was alive. And now I had to find her before they did. I played Emma's video 3 more times, memorizing every word, every detail. My hands shook so badly I could barely control the mouse. Richard, my best friend, the man who'd been my right hand for 12 years, the man who'd stood beside me at my wedding, who'd celebrated every victory, who I'd trusted with everything. He'd tried to murder my wife. I opened the folder labeled Evidence and started clicking through files. What I found made my stomach turn. Audio recording, dated 2 months ago. Richard's voice, clear as day. Moretti, I am telling you, Ethan won't budge. I've tried everything. He is too stubborn, too self-righteous. We need a different approach. Moretti's gravelly response. Then we go through his wife. She is his weakness. Break her, and you break him. What are you suggesting? An accident? Make it look tragic. He'll be so destroyed, he won't care about the company anymore. You step in as acting CEO, we restructure, and suddenly Crosstech becomes our new favorite investment. And my cut, $10 million, plus a seat at the table when this is all over. A pause, then Richard. Make it look real. I don't want him suspecting anything. That is what I do best. The recording ended. I wanted to vomit. There were bank statements. Next. Offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. $3 million transferred to Richard's account 2 weeks ago. Initial payment, the note said. Balance upon completion. Photographs followed. Richard meeting with Moretti in a parking garage. Richard at a restaurant with 2 men I didn't recognize, both with the dead-eyed look of professional killers. Richard standing outside our building, talking on his phone, checking his watch like he was coordinating something. Then I found the mechanic's report. Emma had taken her car to a private shop 3 weeks ago for routine maintenance. The mechanic, someone named Luis Vargas, had written notes in the margins. Brake lines show signs of tampering. Cuts are too clean, too precise. Someone wanted these to fail at high speed. Customer seemed nervous, insisted I document everything and keep copies off the main system. Emma had known someone was trying to kill her. She'd documented it, prepared for it. But she'd still driven that car. My phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Cross. A woman's voice, sharp and professional. This is Samantha Reyes, Emma's friend. I think we need to talk. Where is she? Is she safe? Not on the phone. Meet me at the Bluebird Diner on Ashland Avenue. 1 hour, come alone, and make sure you are not followed. She hung up before I could respond. I looked around the penthouse, suddenly paranoid. Were there cameras? Listening devices? Had Richard been inside our home, planting surveillance while playing the concerned friend? I grabbed Emma's laptop, stuffed it into a backpack, and headed for the door. Then stopped. If Richard was watching the building, he'd see me leave. He'd follow me. I needed to be smart about this. I went to my bedroom closet and pulled out an old Northwestern hoodie and a baseball cap. Changed clothes. Left my phone on the kitchen counter. If it was being tracked, let Richard think I was still home grieving. I took the service elevator down to the parking garage, avoiding the main lobby. My hands were sweating as I drove toward Ashland Avenue, checking the rearview mirror every 30 seconds. No one followed, at least no one obvious. The Bluebird Diner was a hole in the wall on the south side, the kind of place where cops and construction workers grabbed breakfast at 5 a.m. I walked in at exactly 4:47 p.m., scanning the booths. A woman in the back corner raised her hand slightly. Late 30s, dark hair pulled into a tight ponytail, eyes that missed nothing. She wore jeans and a leather jacket, and I could see the outline of a gun holstered at her hip. Samantha Reyes? I asked as I slid into the booth. Call me Sam. She pushed a cup of coffee toward me. You look like hell. My wife's funeral was 3 hours ago. Except apparently it wasn't actually my wife. I know. I was there. 10th row, blue coat. Richard was watching you like a hawk the entire time. My blood ran cold. He knows something's wrong, maybe. Or maybe he is just making sure you stay controlled, devastated, malleable. She leaned forward. Did you watch Emma's video? All of it. And I went through the evidence files. Then you know what we're dealing with. Vincent Moretti doesn't leave loose ends. Emma escaped his people 2 days ago. Barely. They grabbed her outside a coffee shop in Lincoln Park, threw her in a van. But Emma's smart. She'd been carrying a tactical knife in her boot since she started investigating. She cut one of them, kicked out a window while the van was moving, and jumped at a red light. Jesus Christ. She called me from a burner phone, told me to activate the contingency plan. We had this whole thing mapped out. If they came for her, she'd disappear. I'd gather evidence, and we'd take them down properly. Sam's jaw tightened, but they moved faster than we expected. By the time I got to her location, she was gone. They'd found her hiding spot. So where is she now? Safe for the moment. She is in a warehouse on the west side, place owned by a client of mine. But Ethan, we have a bigger problem. They needed a body for the funeral. Someone roughly Emma's age and size. 3 days ago, a woman named Jennifer Kowalski went missing from a homeless shelter in Pilsen. 38 years old, auburn hair, about Emma's height and weight. The coffee turned to acid in my stomach. They killed a homeless woman, burned her beyond recognition in what they're calling Emma's car accident. The dental records are faked. The me who signed off on the death certificate is on Moretti's payroll. $500,000 deposited in an offshore account 2 days ago. This is insane. How is this happening? We're in Chicago, not some corrupt backwater. Money buys anything, Ethan. And Moretti has more money than God. Sam pulled out a tablet, opened a file. Cross-tech's worth what? 500 million. About that. Once you are out of the picture, Richard takes over as CEO. He'll restructure, bring in new board members, people loyal to Moretti. Within 6 months, Crosstech becomes the perfect vehicle for laundering money from Moretti's drug operations. Human trafficking networks, everything, your company, your legacy, turns into a criminal enterprise. Over my dead body. That is exactly what Richard's planning if you don't cooperate. She showed me photographs on her tablet. This is Vincent Moretti Jr. The old man's son runs the day-to-day operations. Real piece of work. He is the one who orchestrated Emma's kidnapping. The man in the photo was younger than his father, maybe 40, with cold eyes and a cruel mouth. He stood outside a nightclub, surrounded by bodyguards. And this, Sam continued, swiping to another photo, is Detective Marcus Chen, Chicago PD, Organized Crime Unit. Also on Moretti's payroll. He has been feeding them information about police investigations for 5 years. If we go to the cops, Chen will know within an hour, and Emma dies for real. So what do? Sam closed the tablet. We fight back, but carefully. Moretti thinks Emma's dead. That is our advantage. He doesn't know she escaped. Doesn't know about me. Doesn't know you are aware of any of this. Right now you are supposed to be a grieving widow, broken and easy to manipulate. Richard's going to push me to sell or step down. Let him play along. Act devastated, lost, willing to do anything to escape the pain. Meanwhile, Emma and I keep gathering evidence. Everything, bank records, recordings, witness, testimony. We build a case so airtight that even Moretti's bought and paid for lawyers can't save him. How long will that take? 2, maybe 3 weeks. Can you hold on that long? Can you pretend everything's normal while your so-called best friend tries to steal your company? I thought about Emma, hiding in some warehouse, terrified, alone. I thought about Jennifer Kowalski, a homeless woman whose only crime was looking like my wife, murdered and burned so Richard and Moretti could execute their plan. I can do whatever it takes. Sam smiled grimly. Good. Because this is going to get ugly before it gets better. I drove home in a daze, my mind spinning through everything Sam had told me. The traffic on Lakeshore Drive blurred into red taillights and gray pavement. When I pulled into the parking garage, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn off the ignition. The elevator ride to the 62nd floor felt like ascending into hell. I stepped into the penthouse and found Richard waiting in my living room. Jesus, Richard, you scared me. My voice came out steady, thank God. What are you doing here? He stood up from the couch, his face etched with concern. You left the funeral so suddenly. I wanted to make sure you were okay. I am not okay. My wife just died. I know, brother, I know. He moved closer. But you can't isolate yourself. That is not healthy. You need people around you. I need to be alone. Ethan, his hand landed on my shoulder. I've been thinking. Maybe it is time to step back from Crosstech for a while. Take a leave of absence. Let me handle the day-to-day operations while you grieve properly. There it was, the play, exactly what Sam predicted. I looked into Richard's eyes, searching for some trace of the friend I'd known. But all I saw was calculation, ambition, greed barely hidden behind a mask of sympathy. Maybe you are right, I said slowly. I can't focus, can't think straight. The company needs stable leadership. Something flickered in his expression, triumph quickly suppressed. It is the smart move. Temporary, of course, just until you are ready to come back. How long were you thinking? 6 months, maybe a year. However long you need. A year, more than enough time to restructure everything. Install new board members. Transform Crosstech into Moretti's money laundering machine. Okay, I said. Draft the paperwork. I'll review it tomorrow. Really? He couldn't hide his surprise. Really? You are right. I can't do this right now. Emma was everything to me without her. I let my voice crack. I don't know who I am anymore. Richard pulled me into a hug. You are my brother, Ethan. I am going to take care of everything. I promise. Over his shoulder, I caught my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. I looked haunted, broken, exactly like a man who'd lost his entire world. But inside, I was burning. And Richard Hale was going to learn that burning men are dangerous. That night, after Richard finally left, I received a text from an unknown number. Tomorrow 7 a.m. Navy Pier. Come alone. Emma. She wanted to meet. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that casket being lowered into the ground, heard the sound of dirt hitting wood. Except now I knew it wasn't Emma in there. It was Jennifer Kowalski, a woman whose life meant so little to Moretti and Richard that they'd burned her to death just to complete their charade. At 6:30 a.m., I left the penthouse taking the same precautions as before. Service elevator, old clothes, no phone. I drove to Navy Pier as the sun crept over Lake Michigan, painting the water gold and orange. The pier was mostly empty this early. A few joggers, one guy fishing off the end. I walked toward the Ferris wheel, hands jammed in my pockets, and there she was. Emma stood near the carousel, wearing a black wig and sunglasses, a hoodie pulled up over her head. She looked thinner than I remembered, exhausted, but alive. God, she was alive. I wanted to run to her, grab her, never let go, but she shook her head slightly, warning me off. I stopped 10 feet away. Don't come closer, she said, quietly. We can't look like we know each other. Emma, I know, but if someone's watching, if Moretti has people out here, we can't risk it. Her voice cracked. I've missed you so much, come home. Let me protect you. You can't. Not yet. The only reason I am alive is because they think I am dead. The second they realize I escaped, they'll come for both of us. She glanced around nervously. Did Sam tell you everything? About Richard, about Moretti, about the woman in the casket. Jennifer Kowalski. I looked her up. She had a daughter, 5 years old, living with foster parents. Tears streamed down Emma's face. They murdered her because she looked like me. Because she was convenient. Nobody would miss a homeless woman. We're going to make them pay. I know. But Ethan, you have to be smart. Richard's watching you constantly. Moretti has people everywhere. If you make one wrong move, I am playing along. Told Richard I'd step down as CEO. Her eyes widened. You what? It is what he wants. Let him think he is winning. Meanwhile, you and Sam gather evidence. Build the case. When we're ready, we hit them with everything. That is risky. Everything about this is risky. But Emma, I can't let them win. They tried to kill you. They did kill Jennifer. They're planning to destroy everything we built. I won't stand by and let that happen." She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with. Strong, brilliant, absolutely fearless. "Okay," she said finally. But promise me something. When this is over, when they're all in prison, we disappear. We sell Crosstech, move somewhere quiet, start over. No more corporate battles, no more looking over our shoulders." "Deal," she smiled, and for the first time in days, I felt something other than rage, hope, tiny and fragile, but real. "I have to go," she said. "Sam's waiting, but Ethan, be careful. Richard's desperate. Desperate men make mistakes, but they're also dangerous." "I know." She turned to leave, then paused. "I love you. I love you too." I watched her walk away, disappearing into the morning crowd, and felt the weight of what we were about to do settle on my shoulders. We were going to war with the mob, with my best friend, with people who'd already proven they'd kill anyone who got in their way. But they'd made one fatal mistake. They'd left my wife alive, and she was coming for them. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. I played the grieving widower, perfectly missed meetings, showed up late to work, let Richard handle everything while I sat in my office, staring out at Lake Michigan, looking like a man who'd lost his soul. Richard ate it up. He restructured departments, brought in new executives, people I didn't recognize, started talking about new directions and exciting opportunities. The board loved him. The media praised his leadership during Crosstech's transition. Meanwhile, Sam and Emma worked in the shadows. They tracked money transfers, recorded conversations, built profiles on every person connected to Moretti's organization. Emma hacked into Richard's personal accounts and found emails that made my blood boil. One sent 3 weeks before the accident. "Everything's in place. The mechanics paid off. Her brakes will fail on Lakeshore Drive. High-speed curve. No chance of survival. Clean and tragic." Another sent 2 days after the funeral. "Ethan's completely broken. Give me 3 months, and Crosstech will be ours." But they weren't just gathering evidence. They were building something bigger. Sam had contacts in the FBI, people who weren't on Moretti's payroll. They were putting together a task force, a coordinated strike that would take down Moretti's entire organization in one move. "It has to be perfect," Sam told me during one of our secret meetings. "If we go too early, Moretti runs, too late, and someone else dies. We get one shot at this. When? 2 more weeks. We need witness testimony from one of Moretti's enforcers, guy named Tommy Ritchie. He is scared, talking about cutting a deal. Once we have his statement on record, we move. 2 more weeks. I could survive 2 more weeks of Richard's fake friendship, his calculated sympathy, his lies. But I didn't have 2 weeks. The call came at 3 a.m. on a Thursday. Unknown number. I was awake anyway, staring at the ceiling, replaying Emma's face at Navy Pier over and over in my mind. I grabbed the phone. "Mr. Cross." A man's voice, panicked, breathing hard. "This is Tommy Ritchie. Sam gave me your number. We got a problem. A big fucking problem." My heart stopped. What happened? "Moretti knows. He knows Emma's alive. Chen tipped him off. Said the FBI's building a case. They're moving up the timeline. They're coming for all of you tonight." The world tilted. How much time do we have? Maybe an hour. They sent a crew to the warehouse where Emma's hiding. Sam's with her. But Ethan, these guys don't play. They're gonna burn that building to the ground with both of them inside. I was already pulling on clothes, grabbing my keys. Where is the warehouse? West Side, 2247 Industrial Avenue, NU. But man, you can't go alone. These are professionals. They'll kill you. Give me a better option. Then, I am sorry. I tried to warn Sam earlier, But my phone was tapped. I only just got to a burner. You gotta move now. The line went dead. I ran. Out of the penthouse, down the service elevator, into the parking garage. My hands shook so badly, I could barely get the key in the ignition. The engine roared to life, and I peeled out, tires screaming against concrete. 2247 Industrial Avenue, NU, West Side. I punched it into my GPS. 19 minutes in light traffic. At 3 a.m., I could make it in 12 if I ignored every traffic law in Chicago. I drove like a man possessed. Red lights became suggestions. Speed limits meant nothing. The city blurred past, empty streets and dark buildings, and all I could think was, I am not losing her again. Not again. My phone rang. Richard, I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Ethan, Jesus, where are you? I can see you are not home. The building's security system sent me an alert. Of course, he'd been monitoring me. Probably had cameras in my penthouse, tracking my every move. Can't sleep, I said, keeping my voice steady. Went for a drive. At 3 a.m., Ethan, that is not healthy. Where are you? I'll come meet you. We can talk. I am fine, Richard. Go back to sleep. Ethan, I hung up 30 seconds later. He called again. I declined it, he called again. And again, he knew. Somehow, he knew I was onto him. The warehouse appeared ahead, a massive brick structure from the 1920s, surrounded by chain-link fence. No lights, no movement. But parked across the street were 3 black SUVs with tinted windows. I killed my headlights 2 blocks away and parked behind an abandoned factory. Pulled out my phone and dialed Sam's number, no answer. Tried Emma's burner phone. No answer, my stomach turned to ice. Was I too late? Were they already inside? Already dead? I got out of the car, moving through shadows toward the warehouse. The air smelled like rust and old oil. My breath came in short bursts, heart hammering against my ribs. The front door was ajar. Someone had forced it open. The lock mechanism bent and broken. I slipped inside, every nerve screaming danger. The warehouse was massive, filled with old equipment and shipping containers stacked 3 high. Emergency lighting cast everything in sick yellow tones. Somewhere in the distance, I heard voices, men talking. The scrape of metal on concrete. I moved toward the sound, keeping low, using containers for cover. My palms were sweating. I had no weapon, no plan, just desperation and rage. Then I heard Emma scream. The sound cut through me like a blade. I ran toward it, abandoning caution, and burst around a corner to find a scene from my worst nightmare. Emma was on her knees in the center of an open space, hands zip-tied behind her back, face bruised and bleeding. Sam lay a few feet away, unconscious, blood pooling under her head. 5 men stood around them, all armed, and in the center, calm as death, stood Vincent Moretti Jr. Mr. Cross, he said, turning toward me with a smile. Right on time, my father said you'd come, said you were predictable. Seems he was right. I froze. Let them go. Let them go. He laughed. You are not in a position to make demands. You are not in a position to do anything except die. Emma's eyes met mine, even beaten, even terrified. She was still fighting. Ethan, run. Get out of here. I am not leaving you. How touching, Moretti Jr. said. He walked over to Emma and grabbed her hair, yanking her head back. She gasped in pain. Your husband's very devoted, Mrs. Cross. Shame he didn't just sell the company when we asked nicely. Would have saved everyone a lot of trouble. Go to hell, Emma spat. He hit her, hard, across the face with the back of his hand. She fell sideways, crying out, and something inside me snapped. I charged him. It was stupid, suicidal. But I didn't care. I slammed into Moretti Jr. like a linebacker, driving him backward into a shipping container. His bodyguards moved instantly, guns rising, but Moretti held up a hand. Number let him have his moment. He shoved me off and stood, brushing off his suit. Then he punched me in the stomach so hard I doubled over, gasping, tasting bile. Another punch to the face. My vision exploded in stars. I hit the concrete floor, blood flooding my mouth. "That is for making this personal," Moretti said, standing over me. "My father wanted to let you live, broken and ruined, but alive, a warning to other people who think they can say no to us. But me," he pulled out a gun. "I prefer permanent solutions." He aimed at my head. Emma screamed, not in fear this time, in rage, pure, primal fury. "Stop, I'll give you everything. The company codes, the encryption keys, access to every client database Crosstech has. Just don't kill him." Moretti paused. "Interested? Keep talking." Crosstech protects half the Fortune 500 banks, hospitals, defense contractors. If you have our master encryption keys, you can access everything. Steal financial data, sell it, blackmail CEOs. It is worth billions, way more than the company itself. I stared at her, not understanding. What was she doing? "And why would you give me that?" Moretti asked suspiciously. "Because I love him more than I hate you. Because I'd rather live in a world where you win than a world where he is dead." Tears streamed down her face. "The keys are on a secure drive, hidden in our penthouse. Only Ethan and I know where. Let him live, and I'll take you there right now." Moretti considered this, the gun still trained on my forehead. I could see the calculation in his eyes, the greed warring with caution. "You are lying," he said finally. "I am not. Check Ethan's phone, look at his texts from 3 days ago. I sent him the location in code. Message thread with my mother's contact. Check it." One of Moretti's men grabbed my phone from my pocket, scrolled through messages, then showed the screen to his boss. I had no idea what they were looking at. Emma had never texted me about any encryption keys, but whatever Moretti saw made him smile. Well, looks like this night just got more interesting." He lowered the gun. "All right, Mrs. Cross. You've bought your husband 30 more minutes of life. But if you are lying, if this is some kind of trick, I'll make you watch while I skin him alive. Understood? Understood." "Wait." The voice came from the warehouse entrance, Richard. He walked in slowly, hands raised, looking between Moretti and me with an expression I couldn't read. "Vincent, we need to talk. Privately." Moretti's eyes narrowed. "About what?" "About the fact that you are walking into a trap." The temperature in the room dropped. Moretti's men shifted, hands moving toward weapons. But Moretti held up a hand. "Explain." Quickly. Richard moved closer, his voice low and urgent. 3 hours ago, I got a call from Detective Chen. He said the FBI knows about tonight. They've had this warehouse under surveillance for 2 days. They're waiting for you to make a move, to do something they can arrest you for. You kill these people. You are giving them exactly what they want. Chen's on my payroll, he would have told me. Chen's playing both sides. He told the FBI about your operation in exchange for immunity. Right now, there are 30 federal agents positioned around this building, waiting for the word to raid. Richard pulled out his phone, showed Moretti something on the screen. "I intercepted this communication 20 minutes ago. It is a staging order. They're ready to move." Moretti stared at the phone, and I saw doubt flicker across his face. He looked at his men, at Emma, at me, calculating odds and angles. "If what you are saying is true, why tell me? Why not just let me walk into their trap?" "Because I am not loyal to the FBI," Richard said simply. "I am loyal to money, and you promised me $10 million plus a seat at your table. I am here to collect." You want your payment now, in the middle of this. I want to know my investment is secure. If you go down tonight, I get nothing. So I am proposing an alternative. Richard gestured to Emma and me. Leave them. Take your men and disappear. I'll handle the FBI. Tell them I got a tip that Moretti was here, but he fled before they could move. You stay free. I stay valuable to you, and everyone wins. Except them, Moretti said, gesturing to us. They're already ruined. Their company's gone. Their reputation's destroyed. Their lives are over. Let the FBI find them here, traumatized and broken. They'll be too busy picking up the pieces to come after you. The logic was twisted, cruel, and exactly what a man like Moretti would believe. I watched him consider it, saw the moment he decided. All right, we leave. But Richard, Moretti stepped close to him, gun pressed against Richard's chest. If you are lying to me, if this is some kind of setup, I will find you. I will find everyone you've ever loved, and I will end them slowly. I am not lying, trust me. Moretti stared at him for a long moment, then lowered the gun. Move out, leave them. His men started backing toward the exit, weapons still trained on us. Moretti followed, never taking his eyes off Richard. They were almost to the door when Richard spoke again. Oh, Vincent, one more thing. What? I lied. Richard pressed a button on his watch. The warehouse exploded with sound and light. Don't be I. Drop your weapons. Get on the ground now. Agents poured through every entrance, a flood of body armor and assault rifles, moving with the precision of a military strike team. Moretti's men spun, reaching for weapons. But it was over before it began. Flashbang grenades detonated. The world turned white. Smoke filled the air. Gunfire cracked like thunder. I threw myself over Emma, shielding her as bullets sparked off metal containers around us. One of Moretti's men fired blindly, hitting nothing. An FBI agent dropped him with 2 precise shots. When the smoke cleared 15 seconds later, it was finished. Moretti's men were on the ground, either dead or zip-tied and bleeding. Vincent Moretti Jr. was on his knees. 3 red laser sights centered on his forehead, his face twisted in rage and disbelief. You son of a bitch, he snarled at Richard. You set us up, you were FBI this whole time. Richard pulled out his badge, holding it up for everyone to see. Special Agent Richard Hale. I've been undercover in your organization for 8 months, Vincent. Every conversation, every meeting, every crime you've committed in my presence has been recorded and documented. He walked over to Moretti, crouched down to his eye level. Your father's being arrested at his estate right now. Detective Chen's in custody. 17 members of your organization are going down tonight in a coordinated sweep. It is over. I'll kill you, Moretti hissed. I'll kill everyone you love. You'll spend the rest of your life in a federal prison. Richard interrupted calmly. Where the only thing you'll kill is time. 2 agents hauled Moretti to his feet and dragged him toward the exit. He was screaming threats, promises of revenge, but his voice faded as they pulled him outside. I cut Emma's zip ties with a knife one of the agents handed me. She collapsed into my arms sobbing, her whole body shaking. I held her, feeling her heartbeat against my chest, real and alive and safe. It is over, I whispered into her hair. It is finally over. Ems rushed in to treat Sam, who was waking up groggy and confused but alive. She had a concussion and 3 broken ribs, but she'd survive. They loaded her onto a stretcher, and she grabbed my hand as they wheeled her past. We got them, she murmured, her words slurred. We actually got them. We did now rest. Richard came over to us pulling off his tactical vest. His face was exhausted, lined with stress I hadn't noticed before. Now that I looked closely, I could see it. The weight he'd been carrying. The fear of being discovered. The pressure of living a lie for 8 months. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "For everything. For the fear, the lies, the pain. I couldn't tell you I was undercover. FBI protocol. If Moretti suspected for even a second, you'd both be dead." "How long have you known?" I asked. "That Moretti was coming after Crosstech?" "About a year. The FBI had intelligence that he was expanding into legitimate businesses, using them for money laundering. Your company was on his target list. When I found out, I volunteered to go undercover." He looked at Emma. "I tried to warn you 3 months ago. Remember that night at the charity gala? I pulled you aside, told you to be careful, to watch your back." Emma nodded slowly. "I thought you were drunk. I was trying to tell you without telling you, but you are too smart. You started investigating on your own, and that made you a target. By the time I realized how deep you'd gotten, Moretti had already ordered the hit." "The car accident," I said, "was supposed to kill Emma for real. I didn't know about it until after. Moretti kept me out of the loop on purpose, testing my loyalty. When I found out they'd actually tried to murder her, I reported it immediately, but the FBI told me to stay undercover, keep gathering evidence. They said if we moved too early, Moretti would run and we'd lose our chance to take down the entire organization. So you let us think Emma was dead." "I had to. If Moretti thought you knew she was alive, he would have killed you both immediately." Richard's voice cracked. "Ethan, you are my best friend. Watching you suffer at that funeral, seeing your pain, knowing I couldn't tell you the truth, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I wanted to be angry, wanted to rage at him for the deception, the manipulation, the 3 days of hell I'd endured thinking my wife was dead. But looking at his face, seeing the genuine anguish there, I couldn't." "You saved our lives," I said finally. "Emma's alive because of you. I am alive because of you. That is what matters." He pulled us both into a hug, and we stood there in that warehouse, surrounded by federal agents and crime scene investigators, and just breathed. Over the next 4 hours, the FBI took our statements. They documented everything. The audio recordings Emma had made, the bank transfers, the photographs, Tommy Ritchie's testimony, the entire 8 months of evidence Richard had gathered undercover. It was the biggest organized crime bust in Chicago history. Vincent Moretti Sr. was arrested at his Lake Forest estate at 4:37 a.m., dragged out in handcuffs, while news helicopters circled overhead. Detective Marcus Chen was picked up at his mistress's apartment, drunk and stupid. 17 other members of the organization were arrested in a coordinated sweep across the city. By sunrise, it was all over the news. Tech CEO's wife survives mob hit. FBI brings down Moretti crime family. Undercover agent spends 8 months inside Chicago mafia. My phone exploded with calls. The mayor, the governor, 3 different federal agencies. Reporters camped outside the FBI field office, shouting questions through the windows. But I ignored all of it, because Emma was sitting beside me, wrapped in a blanket, drinking terrible FBI coffee, and holding my hand like she'd never let go. "We should take that vacation we talked about," she said quietly. "Where, anywhere, everywhere, somewhere without organized crime or corporate intrigue or people trying to kill us. Sounds perfect." Sam walked over, moving gingerly, a bandage wrapped around her head. "You two did good. Really good. Though next time you want to take down a crime family, maybe give me more than 3 weeks' notice." "There won't be a next time," I said firmly. "We're done with all of this." "Good. Because I am billing you for therapy and hazard pay and emotional distress. And we get it," Emma laughed. "Send us the invoice." Richard appeared, carrying 3 cups of better coffee from somewhere. Figured the FBI coffee wasn't cutting it. We sat together, the 4 of us watching the sun rise through the field office windows, and it felt surreal. 12 hours ago, Emma and I had been running for our lives. Now we were safe. Now the monsters were in custody. Now it was over. What happens now? Emma asked. Now. Richard took a sip of coffee. Now there is about 6 months of legal proceedings. Grand jury indictments, trials, testimony. The Morettis are going to throw every lawyer they have at this, but the evidence is overwhelming. They're done. And Crosstech, the company's fine. The FBI froze accounts temporarily as part of the investigation, but everything's clean. You built something legitimate, Ethan. They can't touch that. What about you? I asked. What is next for Special Agent Hale? He smiled tiredly. The Bureau's offering me a promotion. Corner office in D.C. My pick of assignments. But honestly, I think I am done with undercover work, done with lies. I am thinking about opening a private security firm. Use my experience to help companies protect themselves from guys like Moretti. We could use a consultant, Emma said. Once we're back up and running. I'd like that. We sat in comfortable silence, exhausted but content, and I thought about everything that had happened. The fear, the pain, the betrayal, the desperate fight for survival. But we'd survived. We'd won. And the people who tried to destroy us were going to spend the rest of their lives in prison. 6 months later, the trial was a media sensation. Court television broadcast it live. Every major newspaper sent reporters. The prosecution called 73 witnesses and presented over 500 pieces of evidence. Vincent Moretti Sr. sat in the defendant's chair looking old and defeated, his empire crumbling around him in real time. His lawyers tried everything. Challenged the evidence. Claimed entrapment. Argued that Richard's undercover operation was illegal. Nothing worked. The recordings were too clear. The bank transfers too obvious. The testimony too damning. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all 47 counts. Life in prison without possibility of parole. Vincent Moretti Jr. got the same sentence. Detective Chen got 20 years. 17 other organization members took plea deals, testifying against each other in a beautiful cascade of betrayal and spite. Richard received a commendation from the FBI director himself. His undercover operation had dismantled one of the largest criminal enterprises in the Midwest, protected countless potential victims, and sent dozens of criminals to prison. They offered him the promotion again. He turned it down again. I am done with that life, he told me over beers on my deck. I want something real, something honest. He opened his security consulting firm 3 months later. Business was booming within weeks. Crosstech survived the scandal, barely. We lost some clients who were nervous about the mob connections, but we gained others who were impressed by how we'd stood up to organized crime. The company Emma and I built remained clean, remained ethical, but we kept our promise to each other. I stepped down as CEO, not because anyone forced me, because I chose to. Because I'd learned that some things matter more than corner offices and quarterly earnings. We appointed Dr. Sarah Chen as my replacement. Brilliant, ethical, exactly what Crosstech needed. Emma resigned as CIO, handing her division to a talented young engineer named David Park. We sold our penthouse in Chicago, sold most of our Crosstech stock, took the money, and walked away from the life we'd built. And we moved to a small coastal town in Oregon, bought a house with a view of the Pacific Ocean, adopted 2 rescue dogs named Justice and Hope, learned how to live like normal people. Emma started a nonprofit helping victims of organized crime, counseling, legal assistance, protection services. Everything she wished had existed when we were fighting Moretti. I volunteered at the local high school, teaching kids about technology and ethics and the importance of standing up for what is right, even when it costs you everything. Some nights, I still wake up from nightmares, still see that casket being lowered into the ground, still hear Emma's scream in the warehouse, still feel Moretti's gun pressed against my forehead. But then I reach across the bed and feel Emma there, warm and real and breathing, and the nightmares fade. Jennifer Kowalski's daughter, 5-year-old Lily, was adopted by a wonderful family in Indianapolis. We set up a trust fund for her education, made sure she'd never want for anything. It doesn't bring her mother back. Nothing can. But it is something. A small piece of justice in a world that doesn't always offer it. Last month, we visited Lily and her new family, brought her birthday presents, watched her blow out candles on a princess cake. She looked happy, safe, loved. Her adoptive mother, Catherine, pulled me aside afterward. "Thank you," she said, tears in her eyes, "for everything you've done, for making sure her mother's death meant something." "Jennifer deserved better than what happened to her," I replied. "This is the least we could do." Richard visits once a month. We sit on the deck, drink beer, watch the sunset paint the ocean gold and crimson. Sometimes we talk about Chicago, about Crosstech, about the night in the warehouse when everything almost ended. But mostly we talk about simpler things. His new company, his girlfriend, my garden, Emma's nonprofit, normal conversations between friends who survived something extraordinary. "You ever miss it?" he asked during his last visit. "The company, the power, being CEO of a $500 million corporation." "Sometimes," I admitted. "But what I have now is worth more than any boardroom victory. Emma, peace. The knowledge that we did the right thing even when it nearly destroyed us. Even when saying no to Moretti painted a target on our backs. We stayed ethical, stayed honest. That matters more than money or power or corporate success." Richard was quiet for a long moment, staring at the waves. "Then, you know what the crazy part is. If you'd just taken Moretti's deal back at the beginning, none of this would have happened. You'd still be CEO, still be running Crosstech, still have all that influence. And I'd be a criminal, a fraud. Everything I built would be a lie. Every time I looked in the mirror, I'd see someone I didn't recognize. Some people would have taken that deal. I am not some people." He clinked his beer bottle against mine. "Number, you are not. That is why I risked my life going undercover. That is why I spent 8 months pretending to be someone I am not. Because I knew you'd never compromise, never bend, never break. And that kind of integrity is rare enough to be worth protecting." We sat in comfortable silence as the sun disappeared below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire and blood. And I thought about the price of doing the right thing. The pain, the fear, the loss. The woman who died because she looked like my wife. The weeks of terror and uncertainty. The moment I thought I'd lost Emma forever. But I also thought about the alternative. What I would have become if I'd said yes to Moretti. What I would have lost. My integrity. My soul. Emma's respect. My own respect. Everything that made me who I am. Some prices are too high to pay. Some deals are too dirty to accept. And some battles are worth fighting, even when the odds are impossible and the cost is devastating. 2 years after the trial, I received a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name in familiar handwriting. Inside was a newspaper clipping. Vincent Moretti Sr. found dead in prison cell. Apparent suicide. Attached to it was a handwritten note. "One down, justice served." I didn't recognize the handwriting, but I knew who sent it. Somewhere in the federal prison system, someone had made sure Moretti would never walk free, never threaten another family, never destroy another life. I should have felt satisfaction, relief. But all I felt was empty. Because Jennifer Kowalski was still dead, because Lily would grow up without her mother, because justice when it finally comes, doesn't undo the damage. It just stops it from spreading. I put the letter in a drawer and went to find Emma. She was in the garden, planting tomatoes, dirt on her hands, and sunshine in her hair. She looked up when I approached, smiled that smile that still made my heart skip after all these years. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Everything's perfect." And it was, because sometimes doing the right thing costs everything, but sometimes everything you lose is worth less than the one thing you keep: yourself. We'd paid the price. We'd fought the war. And we'd earned our peace. 3 years after the night in the warehouse, Emma and I stood on a stage in Washington, D.C. The FBI director was presenting us with the Citizens Award for Bravery. Behind us, enormous screens showed photographs of the Moretti organization's downfall. Mugshots, court documents, headlines proclaiming justice. Mr. and Mrs. Cross demonstrated extraordinary courage in the face of organized crime, the director said into the microphone. They refused to compromise their ethics, even when threatened with death. They helped bring down one of the most dangerous criminal enterprises in American history. They are heroes in every sense of the word. The audience applauded politicians, law enforcement officials, reporters. But I barely heard them, because in the front row sat Lily Kowalski, now 8 years old, holding her adoptive mother's hand. She waved at us, shy but smiling, and in that moment, I understood something fundamental. We hadn't just fought for Crosstech. We hadn't just protected our own lives. We'd fought for every person Moretti would have hurt in the future, every family he would have destroyed, every Jennifer Kowalski who would have become collateral damage in his empire of greed. That is what integrity means. That is what standing up for what is right accomplishes. Not just personal victory, but collective protection. After the ceremony, Emma and I walked through the National Mall, hand in hand. The Washington Monument gleamed white against the blue sky. Tourists took photos. Kids played on the grass. "Do you think we made a difference?" Emma asked quietly. "I know we did. Moretti's gone. His organization's destroyed. Dozens of criminals are in prison. And somewhere out there, people we'll never meet are safer because we said no. Was it worth it? Everything we went through." I stopped walking, turned to face her, took both her hands in mine. "You are alive. I am alive. We're together. We did the right thing. Yes, Emma, it was worth it. 1,000 times over, it was worth it." She kissed me then, right there in front of the Washington Monument, and I tasted salt from tears. I didn't know I was crying. Some stories don't have happy endings. Some battles leave scars that never heal. Some prices are so high they break the people who pay them. But this story, this battle, this price, we survived, we won, and we're still standing. And that, in the end, is all that matters.